Hi, I'm Lauren Edmonds. I'm the founder and owner of a school that supports children with learning delays. I'm hoping this space gives you something to think about. So, talking a little bit about curriculum and education, the school system has led us to believe that children start at grade R or wherever they start, they stay there, and they move all the way through to matric, and they get the subjects and they get the learning and they pop out the other end just fine. And that's for 80% of the kids, maybe 70% of the kids, or maybe in this country lower, it's just fine. It works out fine. There's another perspective on this that we only are called to see when things start going wrong. And the call to see is not in the learning itself. It's not in what is being taught. And I think that's where a lot of parents get very frustrated about, why is my child learning this? Where will they ever use this in their life? It's actually not about the what is being taught. It's about the fact that we are taking children from not being able to do something like reading to being able to read, and then developing that reading in a more and more differentiated way so they become more masterful at it. And children will get to, we need all children to get to excuse me, functional reading, which is the ability to read a prescription, read a simple article, get by when it comes to contracts, do their work, right? That's functional reading. And then beyond that, it gets more skill-based, and because your skill increases, your ability to do different levels of work increase. And the same with maths. We want to get to functional abilities of maths, functional maths levels, and then beyond that is more and more differentiation to get you to different levels of maths, so you can use it in different ways as an adult. And then the histories and the sciences and the geographies, that is content about the world, and that is your ability to learn and think. And then you need to get to a functional level with that as well. And then beyond that, you get more differentiated, and then you become better and better. And that perhaps informs what you do as an adult. But it's never about the grade. And the only reason I think we really struggle with our children repeating grades is it's societal norms. It's, what will my child do emotionally and socially if he's left behind? And that's where the system lets children down, is they give the parents the idea that my child is now being left behind. But in actual fact, what I see all the time is when they have not repeated a child when it should have happened, especially in the early grades, and the child is left to stay in their grade and struggle, and the struggle just becomes more and more. So if we think of this 30% pass rate, if I only know 30% of what I need to know in grade 4, what am I taking forward to grade 5? I'm taking only 30% of grade 4. I don't know. I don't have the skill. 70% of the skill is missing in me when I hit grade 5. So how do I hit a higher level of work with only 30% of the lower level of work? It's like going to the gym and being able to pick up 5 kilograms, failing at 10 kilograms, and then being given 20. Well, I'm failing at 10. I need to continue with 10. And the education system has a way to deal with that. You can repeat. But it's a system. You can only repeat once in a phase. So that's when children end up having to leave the system and move into a different type of system that allows a child to work at the level at which they're at. However, the system still remains out there, almost like a target, like a goal. And I even use the language when I'm asked, how do children get out of your school? Do they get to mainstream? Well, their parents are asking, at what point will my child be able to go back into the system? And a lot of kids can, for sure. But a lot of kids can't, because the system itself is not set up for them. They learn more slowly, or they learn faster, or they learn differently. And by getting kids or developing them in a way that the goal is to get them back into mainstream, one of the things we would have to do as a school is we would have to normalize mainstream things for a child and start not looking at who the child is. We will have to turn the fish. You know, that we always see that picture about, if we measured everybody by how they could climb a tree, the fish would fail. So then we are trying to get the fish to climb the tree. So we're giving the fish tree climbing skills so that we can mainstream them, when actually they're a damn fine fish. And we should put them in water. So a lovely metaphor is harder to do in practice. But what I'm seeing more and more, and when I started the school 13 years ago, it really wasn't around, but I'm seeing it more post-COVID. Some good stuff, some bad stuff. What I'm seeing that's good is differentiated schools are opening up, differentiated curriculums, varied approaches to education, different options, homeschooling centers, tutors, online tutoring systems. All of this is giving the fish the water it needs in order to swim and thrive rather than giving it the tree. But there's still a misstep here. We still are struggling with parents who have been through the mainstream system, who are struggling to see the alternative and what the future holds. And I don't blame them, because that's the system we know. And our child needs to go into the system when they're older. When they're 18, 19, 20, they need to go into the work system, which is an extension of the school system in many ways. We're still not inclusive in a work environment. We're way more inclusive in a school environment than we are in a work environment. So where are we in terms of society and developing our children? And what is important for us? And it really comes down to you as a parent. What can you see for your child? How can you get your head around where they actually are at, not where you hope they would be or you think they might be, but actually where your child is at, and what do they actually need? And how do we let go of the system and trust that our child will get older anyway, and what they don't get in primary school, they'll probably get later? And I want to give you the story. So every teacher and assistant that I employ that has never seen the Montessori method before and gets exposed to our version of how we introduce Montessori in a very kinesthetic way in our environment, they leave me after 2 to 3 years of working with me having redone their primary school. It's the most remarkable thing to see. Women in their 20s who get exposure to the Montessori and remedial system that I have take in this massive breath and go, oh my gosh, I now get it. I now get long division. I now get metaphors. I now get parts of speech. I now get how to write an essay. Because what you're doing is you're taking an older, more mature person and you're giving them exposure to the stuff they weren't ready for when they were 8, 9, 10, and they get it. And I love telling that story because it really reinforces for you as a parent that you don't have to worry that they don't get it when they're young. Because at some point, if they're given exposure to it again, it will unlock their world. But if we give it to them and we force it on them when they are not ready, when we're teaching them metaphors, when they don't know the difference between a verb and a noun, or we're teaching them verbs and nouns when they don't know the difference between cat and mat, or an onset sound and an end sound, differentiation is how our brains learn. And when we give them things that are too close together, they're not ready for, they just will not learn it. We can say we've taught it, but we can't say they've learned it. And school is for learning. It's not for teaching. It's not a place of teaching. It's a place of learning. So we should not be afraid of our children repeating. So that's why, from my perspective, in my environment, we don't teach to grades. We teach to skill. The teacher understands the CAPS curriculum and where the grades are and what needs to happen at certain grades and ages. But she keeps that a little bit away from the child, and she teaches to where their skills are, and she pushes as hard as she can to develop those skills as far as she can. And we see where we get to at the end of the year, or at the end of the second or the third year. How far have we pushed kids? And I have actually had experience of children where we've caught up grades. But we can't do that if emotionally and socially and physically they are not keeping up as well. They are not being developed in those areas as well. If we only develop academics and we don't look at the child's trauma history and we don't look at the child's emotional growth and physical ability, we will hit a ceiling. And that's what happens when children come to me. They've hit their ceiling of innate ability in a mainstream school, and they can't progress anymore. And they come to me, and the ceiling is not actually academics, it's all the other stuff. All of the other body-mind connection, movements, play, social interactions, all of that needs to be raised up so that the academics can also be raised. It's really important to remember that education is not a grade-by-grade thing. It's not a year-by-year thing. It's a scaffolded approach to developing a child into adulthood. And that's the stance we take.